Hello and welcome to Tonic Studios. I'm Leo and today I'm going to be putting together an Enchanted Cottage gift box using items from the Icing on the Cake monthly sale. So there are a lot of different products in the sale this month, lots of Nouveau products, and I've got a whole range of them here, and we're going to be using them in slightly different ways to how you perhaps normally see them. So I've started my little project here. So I've been using the Enchanted Cottage gift box, and this is what I'm going to be finishing off today with you. And if I just spin this way to the empty side, hopefully you can see on here this sort of stone texture that I have on the background. And I've done this using stone drops, and I'm going to show you how I've done it. Now, we all know how to use stone drops, just pouring them, making that little sort of drop shape onto our projects, but I'm actually going to be mixing them today with water and actually using them to create a background texture for my project. So I have on my mat here one of the panels for my Enchanted Cottage gift box already die cut, and I've actually masked off quite a bit of it. So I've made sure to mask off the glue tabs down the side and the bottom because we don't want any of that stone texture getting onto there. It's going to give you them problems actually sticking your cardboard box together. And then I've also masked out the sort of roof panels because I don't want any of the stone texture on there. So I'm going to use a nice wide paintbrush for this. This is going to give us the best sort of texture and sort of palette to put this on with. And I'm using two colours for the base of my box first of all. So I have the plum slate and also chalk white stone drops. And what I'm going to do first of all is just put a nice big puddle of this down onto my mat. Helps if I store this upside down. And then I'm going to spritz this just with some water. So I just have a spray bottle just with plain tap water in it. I'm just going to give this a couple of spritz over the top. And this just waters it down ever so slightly. I can then mix those two colours together. And then I'm going to just paint this onto the background pieces of my card here. And it does make an awful noise, so I do apologise in advance for that. You will hear every single little bit of stone texture going onto your cardstock. And I'm just pulling this across all in one direction, so it helps to keep it going in the same direction. Once it dries, then it gives you a nice finish. Just grab a little bit more for this side. And you can use more or less of this. You can really build this texture up if you wanted to. Just make sure you do leave it to thoroughly dry between layers if you are going to be adding more. Here we go. And there you can see now I've got this nice stone texture all the way over the side panels of my cottage. So it's going to look perfect once this is dried and I can put it together. So I'm going to carry on using some stone drops again for the next part that I've done here. And again, if I just pull this back in on the front panel of my box here, you can see that I've added this sort of brick texture and I've made myself a little template to do that. So what I've done is using the dies in the Enchanted Cottage set, I've cut 3 layers of the front piece with that sort of brick pattern in there. I've then masked off the bricks that I want to actually use and then cut these apart. And there's a good reason for that, and I'll show you in a second. The colours I'm going to be using for this one, I have stone drops with, there we go, Berry Burst, and also Boulder Grey this time. I'm going to again blend these two colours together. And the Boulder Grey has this really nice sort of pearlescent shimmer in it as well, which just adds a little bit of extra dimension to this. And we don't want too much of the pink in this one, probably that should do us. And this time I'm going to take one of the Nouveau spatulas just to blend these together to get our final colour. And then taking the pieces that I've die cut, what I want to do, and the reason that I've cut these apart is this, I want to make sure they go to the actual edge of my die cut piece here. I don't want them to be slightly notched in, whereas if I put this template right in the centre, you'll see that I would end up with this sort of blank line down the side, which is what I don't want. So I'm going to bump this right over to the very edge, just where I can see that score line. Hold that in place, and then taking some of our stone drop here, I'm just going to push it through the stencil onto my card front here. Now on the finished project, I've actually done this over the top of the sort of stone texture that I did previously. Obviously I don't have time to sit and wait for that to dry. You do need to give this a good amount of time. I actually left this for 24 hours when I was putting this together. So just give it plenty of time to dry before you add on your next layer. So there's my first little set of bricks on there. I'm going to keep building this up, so I've got my next piece, which is going to go slightly further up here. Make sure I've got it the right way around. And again, I'm making sure that the actual edge of that die cut piece is right on the score line of my house. Grab some more of my stone drops here. And then push it through the stencil. You do want to take your time with this. You don't want it to sort of go under the edge of the stencil, so make sure you are holding down the edges as much as you can. And you want to sort of smooth across the top. Try not to sort of pack it into the gaps. Just smooth the product across the top. Just get that last brick in there. Just like so, and then lift my template up, and again I've got my little brick texture on there, and I would add some more up here, but I think you get the idea of how this goes together. And again, you just want to leave this flat to dry. You don't want to put them up too much, or the drops will start to move slightly on the project. So the next panel that I'm going to work on my little house is this one on the side that I have here, and I'm going to basically duplicate this to go on the other side. So this is one of the die cut panels from the set, and I'm going to use some glitter markers to add just a little bit of shimmer to add some more texture to this. So I have my die cut piece here, and I'm going to take 2 of the markers first of all. So I've got the, this is the Sugar Rush triple pack that I've used for this particular project. I've kind of decided that this is the cottage that the Sugar Plum Fairy lives in. So anything pink or purple or sparkly is basically what I reached for to put this together. So taking my glitter marker, I'm just going to pour some of this out again onto my glass mat. So just swirling that onto there. And again, the same with the lavender colour as well. And these are water-based, so you can watercolour with them, which is what we're going to be doing here. So again, I have my little spray bottle of water. I'm just going to give myself a little puddle to one side. And taking a fairly fine paintbrush, I'm going to get it nice and wet and go into the lavender colour first and water it down slightly. I don't want the colour to be too strong. I just want to add a little bit and also that sparkle. And of course, as with all sort of watercolour type projects, the more water you add, the less intense your colour is going to be. So you can add more or less depending on the sort of look that you're going for. So I'm just going around the centre of this flower, just with the lavender colour first of all. I'm taking it up ever so slightly into the petals too, making sure I'm getting plenty of the shimmer on there as well as the colour. And grab a little bit more and do the second one down here. And again, just pulling it up slightly into those petals. And then lastly, with the lavender colour, I'm going to colour this smaller flower over on this side. And the glitter markers actually show up really nicely on dark cardstock. I'm using it on a fairly pale colour here, so you're getting a lot of the colour. But you can also do this on a black or a darker coloured card. Probably won't get as much of the colour depending on the base colour that you use, but you will still get all of that shimmer coming through. Okay, just going to wipe off my brush just to get some of the colour out, and pick up some more water and then go into the pink this time, and then add it to the top part of the petals. A little bit more water. Like I say, this is just regular tap water. You don't need anything special for this. Makes it nice and easy. Okay, just finishing off this flower. This would be a perfect project to make for someone for Christmas, to hang maybe on a Christmas tree, a couple of little gifts inside. If you have anyone who loves everything pink and sparkly in your life, I'm sure we all have someone who would fit that description. Okay, last little flower just going there. Just making sure I add plenty of sparkle. There we go. And normally I would leave this to dry before sticking it to my box, but because I've not put too much water on there, it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm just going to bring in my almost finished gift box here, and I'm going to glue this on just with regular deluxe adhesive. Because we've got that texture in the background, you want something that's going to sort of sit in the cracks, so a nice liquid glue is going to work nicely for this. I'm going to add a bit more than I normally would, again just because we do have that texture on the background. I'm going to make sure that I do add some to some of the intricate die pieces too, to make sure that it does bond nicely onto the finished box. A little bit more in there. Okay. And I'm just going to pop this down onto the box. I'm just going to hold it in place for a few seconds, especially where I know I've got some of that glue, just to give it a moment to actually sort of capture into all of that texture and stick. Okay, I'm going to pop that to one side. I'm actually going to flip it over so the box is holding itself into the glue. And while that's drying, I'm going to finish colouring in my grass in exactly the same way. So this time I'm using the Athenian blue, and because I'm doing this onto green cardstock, it actually comes out like a really nice deep tealy colour. So again, just picking up some of that with some water and just adding that over the grass. And this is just going to finish off one of the other side panels on the box for me. Okay, there we go. So hopefully this has nicely stuck. There we go. It's nicely bonded on there. So I'm going to pop this little piece of grass just to finish off this panel. And with this panel, I've also used some of the Embellishment Mousse, again, in the sale this month. There's lots of different colours of Embellishment Mousse there, so if you've never had a go or you wanted to add to your collection, definitely pick some more up. And I just made the template for the brick texture in exactly the same way that I did for the front panel. I just didn't cut it apart this time, and then put the Embellishment Mousse through there to give that kind of texture. And there's a couple of other then finishing sort of touches that I have done around the edges that I'm going to complete on here. So I have this gorgeous colour of glitter accents. This one is in Candy Kisses. And what I've done is you can just see I've added this to the edge of all of my sort of eaves around the box. I'm just going to finish off the panel that I've done here. There's a couple of things you want to bear in mind with this. You've obviously got the opening part of the box here, so you want to make sure you don't get any of this over that, or you're going to be having issues opening and closing the box. So I'm just going to squeeze a nice thin bead of this all the way along the eaves of my cottage. This is where having a good strong grip comes in handy to keep a nice even pressure on that bottle. Turn that around and I'm going to pull the same bead up the other side. And this is where I want to be a little bit careful just to make sure I don't get it over the edge of the box. I don't want to glue that flap closed. You want to be able to fill your gift box with lots of different treats. There we go. And then to finish off that side panel, it wouldn't be complete, obviously, without some Nuvo drops. So I'm just going to add a couple of little drops into here. Just in a couple of little places. Just to add that little bit more pink sparkle. And one of the other things that I have actually done on this box using the glitter accents is I've actually used it to die cut some pieces. So if I just pick this up, hopefully I can show you this without jamming my finger in it. So I've got this tiny little flower down here that you may just about be able to pick up there on the camera. And I've actually die cut this out of glitter accents. And the way that I did that is just taking my bottle of the glitter accents, I literally just smeared a massive patch of it onto my glass mat, spread it out with a spatula and left it to dry. And then you peel it up and you end up with this sort of sticky, slightly tacky, but glittery sort of glue strip. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's actually really see-through, but you still get that sort of shimmer from all of the glitter in there. So what I ended up doing with that is cutting out, like I said, that little flower in there, and also I die cut the background of this window just at the top as well, just using this piece of glitter accents here. So that's pretty much it for the embellishments that I've put onto here. The final touches that you can just about see on the sort of tile pieces here, I have used some gilding flakes on there in copper, just using a fine tip glue pen to go around the edge of the die and add that on. I've made a little window from twine on the front of here. So I just twirled a piece of twine and stuck it onto the background to give that sort of sugar. It almost looks like a sweet, like a bold sweet on the front of the house. That's how I'm looking at it anyway. And that's basically it. Pretty simple, but I think all of those different textures really add to this project. So I hope that has inspired you to pick up some of the products in the Icing on the Cake sale. Try some of these new textures if you haven't tried them before. This is a great time to grab them and get crafty. I would love to see what you make. Do tag us on social media if you make anything with anything in the sale this month, and happy crafting.